What if I told you that on September 9th, the moon will not only turn blood red, but that ancient prophets, hidden calendars, and even modern scientists believe this date could mark a turning point for the entire world? Would you dismiss it as superstition, or would you stop and wonder why so many different cultures, across thousands of years, warned us about the very same sign in the heavens? Ask yourself this. Why did the Bible say, "The moon shall turn to blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord"? Why did the Mayans, the Babylonians, and even secret societies of our own time track blood moons as if they held the key to the future? And here's the real controversy. What if September 9th is not just another eclipse, but a hidden signal, a countdown embedded into time itself, pointing us to events already in motion? Could this be the trigger for prophecy? A warning of war, economic collapse, or even natural disasters waiting just around the corner? Or is it part of a much larger design, something that governments, religious leaders, and scholars know, but won't tell the public? Stay with me, because in this video, we are going to uncover connections you've never heard before. From the visions of Daniel and Revelation, to ancient myths of catastrophic floods and fires, to modern scientific discoveries that eerily echo the warnings of the ancients. What you're about to hear may shake your faith, challenge your doubts, and force you to question everything you thought you knew about prophecy and the future. So, don't click away. What comes next will not only surprise you, it may change the way you see the night sky forever. Throughout history, humanity has looked to the heavens for signs, strange lights, comets, eclipses, and above all, the blood-red moon. But what happens when a blood moon coincides with a prophetic date like September 9th? Is it simply an astronomical event? Or could it be a signal tied to end-time prophecies revealed by both ancient seers and modern scholars? These are not idle questions. For centuries, blood moons have been wrapped in mystery, fear, and wonder, and many cultures saw them as harbingers of cosmic change. Today, with modern astronomy allowing us to predict the exact timing of such events, we are left with an unsettling question. If the ancients connected blood moons with divine warnings, should we ignore them when they happen in our own time? That is the mystery we will explore together, and I can promise you, the deeper we go, the stranger and more chilling the revelations become. And the next section we're moving into will show you why September 9th specifically has been whispered about in both religious and esoteric circles. The blood moon itself is a natural event. Scientifically, it occurs when the Earth comes between the sun and the moon, casting a shadow that turns the moon red. But ancient people did not view this as mere coincidence. To the Babylonians, the blood moon was an omen of change in kingdoms. To the Chinese, it was thought to be a heavenly dragon devouring the moon, a cosmic struggle signaling disorder on Earth. The Mayans, skilled astronomers, believed eclipses and blood moons aligned with cycles of destruction and rebirth. And the Bible itself makes shocking references to this cosmic event. Joel 2:31 famously says, "The sun shall be turned to darkness, and the moon to blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes." That one verse alone has driven centuries of speculation, but wait until you hear how Revelation links the blood moon with catastrophic global upheaval. We'll be exploring that shortly, and trust me, you'll want to hear how scholars interpret it differently in our modern context. September 9th stands out for reasons that are not just astrological, but numerological and prophetic. The number 9 itself has deep symbolic resonance. It represents finality, judgment, and the completion of a cycle. Think about it, the 9th day of the 9th month, a double 9. In biblical numerology, 9 is tied to divine completeness and also to God's judgment. Could it be that a blood moon falling on this day is not mere chance? Ancient Jewish mystics believed that time itself moves in cycles, and moments when sacred numbers align with cosmic signs should be watched carefully. The Kabbalists, for example, spoke of the Sephirot and their influence on cosmic events. and they would have found the alignment of September 9th with a blood moon highly significant. And this is only the beginning. The next part will reveal how some modern scholars argue that these cycles have already been warning us about looming global shifts, including wars, economic upheavals, and even environmental disasters. Modern prophecy teachers like Mark Biltz and John Hagee have popularized the concept of blood moon tetrads, when 4 blood moons occur in a row on Jewish feast days. They pointed out how these tetrads coincided with major turning points in Jewish history: the 1492 expulsion from Spain, the founding of Israel in 1948, the Six-Day War in 1967. Now, skeptics may dismiss these as coincidences, but the pattern is hard to ignore. So when a blood moon occurs on a date as charged as September 9th, prophecy watchers sit up and take notice. Some scholars believe we are entering into another prophetic cycle, one that could bring both peril and revelation. And we're about to explore how these modern voices connect with ancient traditions to form a chillingly consistent picture of the times we are living in. The book of Revelation offers one of the most detailed visions of cosmic chaos. In Revelation 6:12, John writes, "I watched as he opened the 6th seal. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red." Notice how the blood moon is directly tied to catastrophic earthly upheaval. Earthquakes, political turmoil, even the collapse of the heavens themselves, all wrapped around the image of a crimson moon. Ancient scholars like Irenaeus and Hippolytus took these words literally, believing a blood moon would mark the unveiling of the end of the age. Meanwhile, some modern scholars suggest these are symbolic, yet even symbols are grounded in reality. What kind of events could mirror the terrifying imagery of Revelation today? Natural disasters? Global wars? Shifts in power? The next exploration will take us deeper into how historians, theologians, and astronomers each interpret these signs differently, but strangely, all end up pointing toward the same period of upheaval. Interestingly, the Quran also speaks of celestial signs in the last days. In Surah Al-Qiyamah it says, "When the sight is dazed, and the moon is eclipsed, and the sun and moon are joined together, on that day man will say, 'Where is the escape?'" This echoes the same imagery found in Joel and Revelation, showing that the connection between blood moons and end times is not just a Christian or Jewish idea, but spans across multiple religious traditions. And here is where it gets even more fascinating. Ancient Mesopotamian scholars believed the moon represented kingship. A red moon meant the fall of kings and the rise of new empires. Could the blood moon of September 9th foreshadow global leadership shifts? With the world already experiencing political tension, war, and rising conflict, the symbolism feels eerily timely. And the next insight will be even more thought-provoking. We will look at how indigenous cultures in the Americas also viewed blood moons as signals of transformation. For the Native Americans, the blood moon was never just about destruction, but also about renewal. The Lakota believed the blood moon was a time when the veil between worlds grew thin, when ancestors could be consulted and guidance received. The Aztecs, however, viewed it as a warning of famine or war. Both perspectives emphasize change, but one leans toward hope, the other toward dread. And isn't that the paradox of prophecy? It never gives a single, clear answer, but forces us to prepare for both disaster and opportunity. What if September 9th Sev blood moon is a similar warning that humanity must either change course or face collapse? In the next part, we'll dive into how modern scientific voices are unexpectedly aligning with ancient prophecies. And you'll be shocked to hear how even climate science echoes apocalyptic language. Today, astronomers see blood moons as predictable, natural, and harmless. Yet scientists also warn that the Earth is in crisis: climate change, mass extinctions, and increasingly severe natural disasters. What the ancients described as signs in the heavens, modern scholars describe as data points in climate models. Both point to the same conclusion. we are on the edge of something massive. A blood moon on September 9th, then, becomes a symbol for our times, not just a mystical omen, but a cosmic reminder of the urgency of our situation. But here is the part you want to miss. Some scholars suggest that these celestial alignments are not random, but woven into the very fabric of the universe, a kind of divine clockwork. And in the next unfolding of our discussion, we'll see how this concept of cosmic timing was preserved in mystery schools, secret societies, and hidden texts. From the Essenes in the Judean desert to the mystics of the Renaissance, hidden schools of knowledge spoke about cosmic alignments as signals of spiritual awakening or judgment. Nostradamus himself, often accused of being vague, made cryptic references to lunar eclipses and red moons in connection with turmoil in Europe. And more recently, esoteric groups have linked September 9th with portals of energy, times when the veil between dimensions weakens. Is it coincidence that so many traditions, from mainstream religions to secret societies, warn of cosmic signs? Or are they all drawing from the same ancient source of truth? The next part of our journey will explore exactly that, by comparing how prophecies across time and place align uncannily around blood moons, and especially this one on September 9th. But the question we need to ask now is this: if blood moons have been tied to kingdoms rising and falling, to famine and renewal, and to divine judgment across so many civilizations, then what happens when we overlay these ancient warnings with modern world events? September 9th is not just another date. It falls in a time of rising global tension, wars brewing in regions once considered stable, and a world economy showing cracks that remind some analysts of the 2008 collapse. Ancient scholars spoke in metaphors, but modern financial experts talk in numbers and data. What's chilling is how both point toward the same thing: sudden upheaval. Imagine the ancients looking up at the blood moon and declaring that kings will fall, while today economists warn that global systems are collapsing. Different languages, different symbols, but the same message. And if that unsettles you, wait until you hear how technology, especially artificial intelligence, is now being tied into end-time prophecy by both religious thinkers and secular futurists. Throughout history, prophecies about the end have been vague enough to be reinterpreted in every age. But now, as AI rapidly reshapes our world, some modern scholars argue that we may finally be entering the time that prophets only glimpsed in visions. Consider Revelation's warning about the image of the beast that speaks and demands worship. In the first century, that must have sounded like mystical allegory. But today, with lifelike AI-generated images, voices, and even synthetic personalities, the idea of a speaking image no longer feels impossible. Pair that with surveillance technology, global tracking systems, and digital currencies, and suddenly prophecy and technology appear to be converging. What role does the blood moon of September 9th play in all this? Some suggest it is a divine marker, a signal that the clock of prophecy is ticking louder. The next section will reveal how political powers are already aligning in ways that echo biblical warnings of coalitions rising against Israel, which itself is often seen as the prophetic center of world events. The Middle East has always been the focal point of prophecy, and when a blood moon appears, many immediately look toward Jerusalem. Ancient rabbis taught that lunar eclipses were signs for Israel, while solar eclipses were signs for the nations. So when a blood moon coincides with a date like September 9th, prophetic eyes turn toward the Holy Land. What's remarkable is how modern geopolitics seems to mirror these ancient warnings. Rising tensions in the region, alliances forming between nations historically opposed to Israel, and the shadow of war hanging over the area. All these align with prophetic passages in Ezekiel 38 and 39, describing a coalition of nations rising against Israel in the last days. And here is something that will shock you. Some scholars argue that even the specific names of those ancient nations correspond directly to modern countries in today's headlines. The parallels are astonishing, and the next revelation we'll dive into will uncover how archaeological discoveries are adding even more credibility to these ancient texts. In the deserts of Qumran, the Dead Sea Scrolls were hidden for centuries, only to be uncovered in the 20th century. Among them were apocalyptic writings that spoke of cosmic battles, heavenly signs, and the coming of a final age. Some of these scrolls mention lunar phenomena in connection with divine judgment. Now, imagine this. Texts hidden in jars for over 2,000 years suddenly resurface in our modern time, just as blood moons gain worldwide attention once again. Coincidence or divine timing? Archaeologists have also uncovered ancient Babylonian tablets tracking lunar eclipses with astonishing precision, revealing how civilizations long before us already connected these events to political and spiritual upheaval. But here's the deeper mystery. Some of these ancient calendars, when aligned with modern astronomical software, point to cycles that converge on our very era. And in the next part, we'll unravel how secret societies in the medieval and Renaissance periods guarded these cycles and passed them down to the elite, whispering of a final blood moon that would herald great transformation. The Knights Templar, the Rosicrucians, and later, the Freemasons were not only builders and mystics, they were keepers of ancient knowledge. Many of their symbols, etched into cathedrals and encoded in manuscripts, reveal a preoccupation with the heavens. The Templars, in particular, were accused of heresy for their hidden teachings, but some researchers believe they had access to ancient scrolls from Jerusalem itself. Within these teachings were warnings about cycles of blood moons, marking ages of turmoil. Renaissance scholars like Tycho Brahe and Johannes Kepler, while remembered as scientists, also dabbled in prophecy, blending astronomy and astrology in their attempt to decode divine timing. Could it be that what they sought, the great cosmic alignment, was not just abstract, but pointing to specific moments like September 9th? And if that seems far-fetched, the next unfolding truth will bring us to the heart of modern conspiracy theories, where government projects, space exploration, and hidden archives converge with ancient prophecy in startling ways. Consider this. Why does NASA track eclipses centuries into the past and future, publishing detailed records of every blood moon? On one level, it's scientific precision. But to some researchers, it seems almost like modern priests of astronomy guarding knowledge once restricted to ancient temples. Add to that the whispers of secret government projects, underground bases hidden, vaults of ancient texts, and even speculation that the Vatican holds prophecies too explosive for the public. And suddenly, the blood moon feels less like a natural curiosity and more like a heavily monitored event. Some conspiracy theorists go further, claiming that major world events, from wars to political assassinations, have been timed with celestial phenomena. Could September 9th's blood moon be marked for something similar? The next part will push us further down this rabbit hole as we examine how not only religion and science, but also psychology, explains why blood moons strike such deep fear and fascination in the human mind. From a psychological perspective, the blood moon is a trigger for our deepest archetypes. Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, spoke of the collective unconscious a reservoir of symbols shared by all humanity. The blood moon, with its eerie glow, taps into the archetype of death and rebirth, of endings and new beginnings. Ancient people may have interpreted it religiously, but modern humans feel the same unease when the night sky turns red. It is as if something in our DNA remembers the warnings of the past. Jung even suggested that prophecy itself could be a form of collective vision, shared by many across time, arising from these archetypal patterns. If that is true, then perhaps the blood moon is not just an external event, but an inner awakening, a call to transformation that humanity cannot ignore. And this naturally leads to the next revelation we must explore: how spiritual awakenings and revivals in history have often coincided with celestial signs, suggesting that September 9th's blood moon may herald not only judgment, but also renewal. The Great Awakening in the 18th century, the revivals in Wales, the Azusa Street revival in Los Angeles, all were periods when masses of people suddenly turned to spirituality. Intriguingly, many of these moments were accompanied by unusual celestial events: comets, eclipses, meteor showers. Could the heavens act as catalysts for human awakening? Many religious scholars think so, and they point to the prophecy in Acts 2:20, where Peter repeats Joel's words about the blood moon, tying them to the outpouring of the Spirit. This suggests that a blood moon is not merely a warning of doom, but also a doorway to renewal. What if September 9th is not just about judgment, but about opportunity, an opening for humanity to awaken to its higher calling? And yet, as inspiring as that sounds, there is a darker side we must confront. The same celestial signs that awaken some can terrify others, leading to chaos, fear, and even violence. The next part of our journey will reveal how history shows both sides' mass panic and mass awakening emerging under the same blood-red sky. If fear and hope often walk side by side during a blood moon, then it should not surprise us that history records both riots and revivals under its crimson light. In 1504, Christopher Columbus, stranded in Jamaica and desperate for supplies, used his knowledge of a coming lunar eclipse to terrify the local people into submission. When the moon turned blood red, they believed divine wrath was upon them, and only Columbus could intercede. This story is often told as a tale of manipulation, but it shows how deeply humanity is wired to react to the blood moon as a sign of power beyond our control. If one man could bend an entire people's will with this knowledge, imagine what those in power today, armed with far greater data and technology, could do when they know exactly when and where celestial signs will occur. Could September 9th be used in similar ways, as a stage for political or spiritual leaders to seize influence? The next insight we re-stepping into will examine how rulers throughout history have used cosmic events to legitimize their authority. And you'll see how eerily similar patterns are resurfacing right now. From the Roman emperors to medieval kings, rulers often portrayed celestial events as divine approval of their reign. Julius Caesar aligned himself with a comet after his death, which was hailed as the soul of Caesar ascending to the heavens, legitimizing his divine status. Centuries later, medieval monarchs claimed solar and lunar eclipses as heavenly validation of their right to rule. And yet, in times when blood moons coincided with political instability, these same rulers were accused of losing God's favor. This duality is fascinating because it shows us that celestial events were never neutral. They always became tools of narrative spun by those in power. Fast forward to today, and you'll notice similar patterns. Leaders, nations, even entire movements interpret cosmic signs as aligning with their cause. Some prophecy teachers already frame blood moons as connected to global power shifting. The next part of our journey will uncover how even military strategies and wartime campaigns have been timed with astronomical events, proving that the heavens have always been a hidden battlefield. Take Alexander the Great, whose campaigns were often accompanied by astrologers interpreting celestial omens. Or the Ottoman siege of Constantinople in 1453, where a lunar eclipse and a blood moon were recorded just before the city's fall, a sign that many inside the walls took as confirmation of doom. Historians tell us morale was shattered not only by cannons, but by the blood-red sky itself. The link between war and celestial signs is undeniable. And as we look toward September 9th, with global conflicts already sparking in Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and the Pacific, one cannot help but wonder whether armies and governments still secretly consult these timings, just as their ancestors did. The next revelation will lead us into prophecies that go beyond wars of men, into wars of angels and unseen powers, as recorded in apocryphal texts that most people never hear about. The Book of Enoch, excluded from the biblical canon but treasured in Ethiopian tradition, speaks of watchers angels who descended, corrupted mankind, and whose judgment is tied to cosmic signs. Enoch describes visions of the heavens shaking, stars falling, and the moon turning colors. These passages resonate uncannily with Revelation, suggesting that the blood moon is not just about earthly turmoil, but about cosmic battles unfolding beyond our sight. Ancient mystics believed every blood moon thinned the veil between worlds, allowing forces of light and darkness to clash in ways that ripple into human history. If that's true, then September 9th could mark not just political or natural upheaval, but spiritual warfare manifesting in our very age. But here is where it gets even more fascinating. The next part will show you how modern UFO researchers, surprisingly, are connecting their work to ancient prophecies about blood moons and end times. In recent years, government disclosure on UFOs has stirred debate worldwide. Whistleblowers suggest that encounters with non-human intelligences are more common than ever admitted. But here is the connection few dare to explore. Many UFO sightings throughout history have been reported during or near eclipses. Could it be that cosmic alignments like blood moons create conditions for interdimensional contact? Some prophecy interpreters go further, equating these aliens with the fallen angels of Enoch, beings whose activity will intensify as the end draws near. If true, then the blood moon is not just a marker of judgment, but a doorway through which otherworldly presences operate. As unsettling as that sounds, the next stage we'll explore will reveal how ancient temples and sacred sites across the globe, Stonehenge, Chichen Itza, Angkor Wat, were built in alignment with lunar cycles, almost as if humanity has always prepared for these celestial thresholds. Consider Stonehenge in England, whose giant stones align not only with the solstices, but also with lunar standstills, cycles of the moon that repeat only once every 18.6 years. In Central America, the Mayan pyramids were designed to track lunar eclipses with astonishing accuracy, and rituals were performed whenever the moon turned red. In Cambodia, Angkor Wat's intricate architecture encodes solar and lunar movements into its very foundations. What does this tell us? That blood moons were not seen as random. They were treated as sacred appointments, cosmic festivals where heaven and earth intersect. If September 9th aligns with this same pattern, then perhaps the ancients were right. These are not accidents, but signals woven into the structure of time itself. And if that is the case, then the next layer we'll peel back will be even more intriguing. How hidden calendars like the Hebrew Jubilee cycle and the Mayan long count may intersect with our present age and this very blood moon. The Hebrew Jubilee cycle, marked every 50 years, was a time of release, restoration, and return. Some scholars have noted that major global shifts in finance, land, and power occur in rhythm with these cycles. When combined with blood moons, the symbolism of release and upheaval becomes even stronger. Meanwhile, the Mayan long count calendar, often misinterpreted in 2012 as predicting the end of the world, was actually about the end of one great cycle and the birth of another. Imagine if September 9th's blood moon represents not a single event, but a convergence of cycles, a jubilee of nations, a Mayan-like reset, a cosmic turning of the page. The idea is both terrifying and electrifying. But the next revelation will push us even further. What if September 9th is not only about cycles of history, but about personal transformation, a call for each of us to prepare individually for what is coming? In nearly every prophecy tradition, from the Bible to Native American lore, the cosmic signs are not just about kings and nations, they are about the human heart. The blood moon is a mirror, forcing us to ask, are we ready? The Hopi spoke of a red sign in the heavens that would mark the purification of the earth, a time when each person must choose their path. Biblical prophecy echoes this sentiment, warning that the signs in the heavens are not just for scholars to decode, but for individuals to awaken. Perhaps September 9th is not only a warning to the world, but a whisper to each soul. Change, prepare, awaken. And if that sounds heavy, remember, the next part we are moving into will open the door to perhaps the most mysterious dimension yet, how blood moons tie into the concept of parallel realities and time, itself is suggested by both quantum physics and ancient mysticism. Quantum mechanics has revealed that reality is stranger than we ever imagined. Some physicists suggest that multiple dimensions or universes may exist simultaneously, and that time itself is not a straight line, but a series of layers. Now imagine how ancient mystics, without advanced technology, intuited something similar. Kabbalists spoke of different worlds stacked atop each other. Hindu cosmology describes cycles of yugas, vast ages, that overlap and repeat. Could a blood moon like the one on September 9th act as a marker, a crossing point where realities touch? Some modern thinkers argue that during celestial alignments, human consciousness itself can shift, allowing visions, revelations, and awakenings that seem impossible under normal conditions. If that is true, then this blood moon is not just about prophecy, it is about possibility. And what comes next in our exploration will push this boundary even further, as we examine how dreams, visions, and prophetic experiences have spiked historically during these lunar events, and what that could mean for us today. Throughout human history, dreams and visions have often been heightened during extraordinary celestial events. Ancient kings kept entire schools of dream interpreters who reported changes in symbolism during eclipses and blood moons. The Babylonians, for instance, recorded that ordinary dreams of rivers or animals became filled with fire, destruction, and heavenly beings when the moon turned red. This wasn't superstition. It was a widespread recognition that human consciousness itself seemed to shift during these cosmic alignments. Today, psychologists might dismiss this as a product of fear and anticipation. Yet modern neuroscience shows that the human brain is sensitive to cycles of light and darkness. Could the blood moon actually influence our minds, sparking dreams and visions that feel prophetic? And if so, what would that mean for September 9th, when millions will gaze up at the same crimson sky? The next layer we're about to unfold will reveal how prophets, saints, and mystics across religions have recorded life-changing visions tied to blood moons, and the consistency across cultures is too stunning to ignore. The Jewish Talmud states that lunar eclipses are a bad omen for Israel, yet it also emphasizes that repentance and prayer can transform judgment into mercy. Early Christian mystics like Hildegard of Bingen described fiery visions of a red moon accompanied by angels, and beasts, linking these directly to the trials of the church and the rise of false teachers. In Islam, lunar eclipses were occasions for special prayers, recognizing them as signs of God's power and warnings to humanity. And in Buddhism, ancient texts speak of celestial events sparking mass shifts in human karma. It is astonishing how traditions that seem so far apart converge on the same idea. When the moon turns blood red, it is not just the sky that changes, it is humanity itself that must face transformation. But here's where it grows even more fascinating. In modern times, certain visionaries and near-death experiencers have reported seeing red moons as markers of the threshold world between life and death. And in the next part, we'll uncover how near-death accounts eerily echo the same prophetic imagery, suggesting that the blood moon is tied not only to history, but to eternity itself. People who have experienced near-death encounters often describe visions of a sky transformed, sometimes with a fiery sun, sometimes with a darkened sky, and often with a blood-red moon. These reports are strikingly consistent across cultures, and many interpreters believe they are glimpses of the same prophetic reality described in Joel and Revelation. Could it be that when the blood moon appears, it resonates with something eternal deep in the human soul? A reminder of the final crossing that awaits all of us? Some scholars suggest that prophecy is less about predicting external events and more about awakening us to inner truths, and the blood moon acts as a cosmic mirror. If that is true, then September 9th is not only about world events, but about each individual's confrontation with mortality and destiny. And yet, this is not meant to paralyze us with fear. It is meant to awaken us with urgency. The next mystery we must dive into takes this concept even further. How blood moons are linked with hidden knowledge of the stars. Encoded in the ancient art of astrology, but in ways far deeper and more symbolic than modern horoscopes would suggest. Astrology in its ancient form was not merely about daily fortune-telling. It was a sacred science. The Chaldeans and Egyptians mapped the skies to understand the rhythms of kings and empires. To them, the blood moon was a red seal across the heavens, marking a season of judgment. The color red itself was tied to Mars, the planet of war, which reinforced the idea that blood moons signal conflict and upheaval. In esoteric traditions, the blood moon was also linked to the alchemical stage of rubedo, the red phase of transformation, symbolizing death, purification, and ultimate rebirth. Imagine that alchemy, prophecy, and astronomy all converging on the same fiery symbol. Could it be that September 9th is part of a larger pattern of transformation encoded in the very language of the cosmos? And if you think that is too mystical, wait until we move into the next section, where we'll see how even modern political agendas and globalist movements appear to track with these cycles, hinting at knowledge being used quietly behind the scenes. In the corridors of power, symbolism has always mattered. Nations choose the timing of inaugurations, wars, and treaties with uncanny attention to dates and alignments. For instance, Adolf Hitler launched invasions and gave speeches on astrologically significant days, convinced that the stars influence destiny. In modern times, whispers persist that global elites use celestial events like blood moons as backdrops for major announcements or as markers for hidden agendas. Some researchers point to September 9th as aligning with specific cycles in financial markets, and note that sudden shifts often occur around eclipses. If true, then the blood moon may not only be a religious or mystical event, but also a tool for those who understand its psychological and symbolic power. Imagine billions watching a red moon, subconsciously stirred to feel fear or awe, while leaders quietly make decisions that shape the world. The question is, who today is harnessing that power? The next revelation we'll unravel will explore how the Vatican, one of the oldest centers of prophetic study, has carefully tracked lunar eclipses for centuries, and what secrets might be hidden in its vaults. Deep inside the Vatican Library, there are texts from Babylon, Egypt, and medieval Europe, all meticulously recording celestial events. Many of these manuscripts are rarely shown to the public, guarded as if their contents are too dangerous to reveal. Some researchers believe these documents tie blood moons to specific prophetic timelines, and that the Church has long known when critical shifts would occur. Consider this. The Vatican operates the largest telescope in Arizona, named the LUCIFER device by its scientific collaborators. Its focus? Observing celestial phenomena with cutting-edge precision. Is it coincidence that one of the most powerful religious institutions on earth is so invested in the study of the skies? Or do they understand, as ancient scholars did, that prophecy unfolds in the heavens before it manifests on earth? The next stage of our exploration will bring this even closer to home, because we will see how everyday people, ordinary witnesses, have connected personal life-changing events with blood moons, proving that prophecy is not only about nations, but about individuals. All across history, diaries and journals record the strange power of the blood moon. Farmers wrote of losing entire crops after eclipses, seeing them as judgments. Sailors feared setting out to sea under its glow, believing disaster would follow. Even in modern times, individuals recount how major life events, births, deaths, transformations, seem to cluster around these cosmic markers. Could it be that just as nations rise and fall under the blood moon, so too do individuals face turning points in their lives? Perhaps September 9th is not only a global sign, but a deeply personal one for each who witnesses it. And this leads us to an even more intriguing question for the next section. What role do children, visions, and the innocent play during these events. Because history suggests that in times of blood moons, the voices of children and visionaries often rise with uncanny clarity, speaking truths that even kings cannot ignore. In medieval Europe, records tell of peasant children falling into trances and proclaiming visions under the blood-red sky. In Native American tribes, children were thought to be closer to the spirit world, and their dreams during eclipses were considered oracles. In modern times, child visionaries like those in Fatima, Portugal, were linked to celestial phenomena that shook entire nations. Could it be that the purity of the innocent allows them to perceive what adults have forgotten? If September 9th's blood moon carries weight for prophecy, perhaps the voices of the young will once again rise with messages we would do well to hear. But the next step of our journey pushes even deeper into the hidden. How blood moons have been tied to great plagues and pandemics, marking moments when disease swept across the earth. And when you hear the patterns, you will realize that the timing is chillingly familiar to our own day. Throughout history, the blood moon has also been tied to plagues and pandemics, moments when humanity faced invisible enemies. Chronicles from medieval Europe describe how blood-red eclipses preceded outbreaks of the Black Death, and priests declared them signs of God's wrath. In Asia, emperors recorded blood moons followed by pestilence that swept through entire provinces. Even in the early 20th century, accounts link lunar eclipses with outbreaks of disease in remote villages, where people saw the moon's crimson glow as a herald of sickness. Today, with our world recently shaken by a global pandemic, the pattern feels unsettling. Could September 9th's blood moon align with another turning point in global health, not just physically but spiritually? After all, prophets often tied plagues not only to punishment but also to purification. And the next mystery we will unlock may be even more chilling: the strange connection between blood moons and earthquakes, tsunamis, and other natural disasters that seem to follow in their wake. Ancient civilizations carefully observed the ground beneath them whenever the heavens shifted. The Chinese, masters of detailed record-keeping, noted that great earthquakes often followed lunar eclipses, sometimes within weeks. In Japan, tsunamis were feared after blood moons, seen as the sea itself responding to the wounded sky. Even in modern times, statisticians have debated whether seismic activity correlates with full moons and eclipses, pointing to subtle gravitational influences. Whether scientific or symbolic, the association has persisted for millennia. So when we see September 9th drawing near, we must ask, will the earth itself respond to the blood moon with shaking? And if so, where? The next revelation will carry us even deeper into prophecy, as we uncover how Daniel's visions of kingdoms and timelines may intersect with lunar cycles in ways most people have never considered. The book of Daniel, filled with mysterious numbers and symbolic beasts, is often seen as the key to unlocking revelation. Daniel spoke of 70 weeks, of times and half-times, and of kings rising and falling according to divine schedule. Many interpreters believe these timelines are not random, but connected to astronomical cycles. Some even suggest that lunar eclipses act as markers, punctuating prophetic seasons that Daniel foresaw, but did not fully explain. The blood moon, then, may be more than a warning. It may be a countdown clock. Imagine Daniel gazing into the future, seeing the red moon and kingdoms collapsing, unable to explain it in words his contemporaries could understand. Could September 9th be part of that divine timetable? The next step in our journey will take us into how modern mathematicians and prophecy researchers are using computer models to align Daniel's numbers with lunar eclipses, and the results are startling. With powerful software, modern scholars can calculate every eclipse past and future for thousands of years. Some prophecy researchers have taken Daniel's prophetic numbers, 1260 days, 1290 days, 1335 days, and mapped them onto blood moon cycles. What they found is extraordinary. Alignments where Daniel's intervals seem to match precisely with clusters of eclipses. almost as if the prophecies were written into the fabric of time itself. Skeptics call it coincidence, but the patterns are too precise to dismiss easily. Could September 9th fall into one of these hidden alignments, a point where prophecy and astronomy converge? If so, then the blood moon may not simply symbolize change, it may mathematically mark it. But there is another layer yet to uncover, and it will be even more fascinating: how music, art, and culture across centuries have secretly encoded blood moon symbolism, preparing humanity subconsciously for moments like these. Artists of every era have painted the moon in crimson hues, often in apocalyptic settings. From medieval tapestries to Renaissance frescoes, the blood moon appears as a backdrop to scenes of judgment, angels, and beasts. Poets wrote of it as the wine cup of wrath or the lantern of doom. Composers encoded lunar symbolism in their symphonies, with eerie crescendos meant to mimic the rising of a red moon. Even modern films and literature are saturated with blood moon imagery, often tied to apocalypse or transformation. Could it be that culture itself has been preparing us for this, shaping our imaginations so that when September 9th arrives, we instinctively sense its importance? The next discovery will make this even more intriguing: how hidden symbols in architecture, from cathedrals to skyscrapers, have quietly embedded lunar alignments into their very design. Look closely at Gothic cathedrals in Europe, and you'll see carvings of moons, stars, and eclipses. Some rose windows align with lunar phases, casting red light into the sanctuary during certain eclipses. In Washington, D.C., monuments are positioned with surprising astronomical precision, some pointing directly toward lunar rise points. Even in modern skyscrapers, architects embed symbolism of the moon, often unnoticed by the public. Why? Because throughout history, builders have known that structures aligned with the heavens resonate with power. The blood moon has always been among the most powerful of these alignments, representing the fusion of heaven and earth. If September 9th marks such a moment, how might our very cities be acting as stages for prophecy to unfold? A next unfolding revelation will take us even further, into the realm of secret calendars, those kept not by mainstream religions, but by hidden orders who claim to guard the true timeline of the end. Whispers of secret calendars have persisted for centuries. Some claim the Mayans had a hidden cycle beyond the long count, reserved only for priests. Others believe the Essenes, the sect behind the Dead Sea Scrolls, kept a solar lunar calendar that revealed the timing of final events. Medieval mystics spoke of a clock of God that only the initiated could read, aligning celestial signs with prophetic ages. Could blood moons like September 9th be part of this hidden calendar, known only to a few? Some conspiracy theorists even argue that global elites still consult these secret timetables, orchestrating events to coincide with celestial markers. Whether true or not, the idea has power because history shows again and again that blood moons are never treated as random. And the next mystery we'll dive into will carry us from calendars to cosmic catastrophes, as we explore how ancient myths of world-ending floods, fires, and ice ages are often tied to lunar signs. In Mesopotamian myth, the flood of Gilgamesh was preceded by omens in the sky, including a blood-colored moon. In Norse mythology, the wolf skull devours the sun, and the Volfhati devours the moon, plunging the world into Ragnarok, a time when the moon turns red with blood. Hindu texts describe Pralaya, the cosmic dissolution, where the moon bleeds as the universe resets itself. These myths, spread across continents, all tie lunar signs to cataclysmic renewal. Modern scientists studying climate history note that catastrophic events, the Younger Dryas cold period, volcanic winters, asteroid impacts, would have turned the skies red with dust and ash, producing moons that glowed crimson. Could the myths simply be memories of ancient disasters wrapped in prophecy? And if so, does September 9th warn of another cycle ready to repeat? The next part we'll enter will connect this to the cutting edge of astrophysics, where some scientists argue that celestial alignments could indeed trigger cosmic events capable of shaking the Earth. Astrophysicists study not only the predictable dance of planets and moons, but also the unpredictable threats, solar flares, asteroid flybys, gravitational shifts. Some suggest that eclipses and blood moons, while not dangerous themselves, may coincide with increased solar activity or magnetic disturbances. Others point to cycles of asteroid impacts that align with cosmic rhythms we don't yet fully understand. Imagine if September 9th's blood moon coincided with a solar storm that knocked out power grids worldwide. The ancients would call it judgment. Modern scientists would call it coincidence, but both would recognize it as a turning point. Could this be the hidden reason so many cultures treated blood moons with reverence and fear? The next revelation will take us even further into the realm of time travel theories and dimensional gateways, where some believe the blood moon acts as a cosmic portal, not just for light, but for time itself. We have traveled a long journey together through the mysteries of September 9th's blood moon, the warnings of the prophets, the visions of Daniel and Revelation, the whispers of secret calendars, the myths of ancient civilizations, and even the cutting-edge possibilities of science and astronomy. We've uncovered how blood moons were seen as harbingers of plagues, natural disasters, wars, and even cosmic shifts. We've explored how scholars, both ancient and modern, have traced hidden patterns, suggesting that what appears in the heavens is not random at all, but deeply tied to the destiny of nations and the fate of humanity. We've seen how artists, musicians, and architects encoded the blood moon into culture, how secret orders may have tracked its meaning, and how astrophysicists today are beginning to see connections that echo the warnings of Scripture. And yet, we are left with more questions than answers. Could September 9th truly mark a shift in the spiritual and physical world? Will it align with prophecy, or will it pass unnoticed until hindsight reveals its importance? One thing is clear: the blood moon is never just a shadow in the sky. It is a sign, a symbol, a reminder that history is moving toward a climactic moment, whether we are prepared or not. And the deeper we go, the more we realize that the mysteries have only just begun. So now, I want to hear from you. What do you believe about the September 9th blood moon? Do you see it as a warning, a countdown, or simply a natural phenomenon? Drop your thoughts and interpretations in the comments below. I'll be reading them and responding, because this conversation is far too important to end here. If you've been intrigued by the mysteries we've explored, don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next video where we go even further into the signs of the end times and the secrets hidden in plain sight. Make sure to like this video if you found it eye-opening, and share it with your friends and family who might also be curious or even skeptical about these incredible connections. And of course, hit that notification bell so you'll be the first to know when we uncover the next hidden truth. This is just the beginning. The next journey will be even more fascinating, more controversial, and perhaps even more urgent than what we've uncovered today. Stay with me, because the secrets of prophecy are still unfolding, and the blood moon is only the start.